Have you ever wanted to make a radio-controlled jet and to build a boat for treasure? In the latest update, you now can! Because the new Roblox, which I currently have turned off on visibility, actually has an option to share the match rotation between the start and end point. This means that we can actually control the pitch and yaw of a thruster, which means that we can now make radio-controlled jets. Adrian, though, showed me this trick with a simple plane seat that was rolling around on the floor. However, I decided, what if I overcomplicated it a bit? And so I made this entire gimbal structure, which uses the driver's seat instead, which means that it's even more expensive than the 4,000 that it would cost. But, as you can see, it works even more reliably than a seat on the floor because there are no hang-up points and it does not get caught on anything and it's very smooth. But do make sure to check out Adrian's channel if you haven't already, because he showed me this trick. I did not create it, Adrian discovered it, and showed me it very quickly after he discovered it. To build the radio-controlled portion of this radio-controlled jet, you need 2 portals, some blocks to build a platform, a camera, a block to put the rope on, a jet for the actual power of the RC jet, and a rope. So, you want to build a structure like this, which is simply a slab of blocks on the floor. Then you want to put your portal here. Then you want a block here that is thin. This block is so you know where to place your rope, so you know where to place it if you're constantly changing out your thruster and gimbal location. Jet on the front or on the back or wherever the jet is in relation to your RC. And then a camera wherever you also want it. Now, you do need a rope for this section, but not yet, as you don't have a seat. But in my case, I would attach the rope to the chair a bit like that. But don't do it yet. It is important that we don't do it yet. You need a trowel for this segment, or you can use your other 2 jet thrusters, point them directly upwards and fly this thing upwards. But I have a trowel, so I'm going to just trowel it up. I'm going to use this one since this is practically identical. Right, so the reason you want the trowel is to select it, pitch your camera into the floor, drag it as far up as you can get it. Here's where the portal comes in handy. You hop in the portal, and you repeat it a few times. So now you should be very high up. The reason we want to do this is we want a very long rope, as the longer the rope you have, the further you can go on one jet thruster, and a short rope will limit how far you can go, so you want it really high into the air. Then, if you have a pilot seat or something, you attach it to the pilot seat. You can see it's quite a long rope, 6,909.66 Roblox inches, I think. I don't know what the studs are. I think they might actually be an American foot, but I don't know for certain. But yeah, so that's how you get the that section, the RC jet, into the sky. So now we're going to cut to the gimbal, and there's 2 or 3 ways you can do this. I'm going to show you 2 of them, and I'm going to show you how to build this one right here, as it's the most functional. So this first design is simple. It's cheap, and you only need a rope and a jet, but I've added some extra blocks to be fancy. As this chair rolls along the floor, it will mechanically link its motion to the jet, which we can then harness to use the RC jet. And this is the design that Adrian showed me. And it's really simple, it's quite effective, but you will notice, especially if you're controlling it, that there's a lot of drift, because this chair only wants to be on 6 faces, or 5 faces actually. It doesn't like being anywhere else, which is where design 3, my gimbal, comes into play. The second design is a ball trapped in a box. Now, the reason I made this design was I saw Adrian's chair rolling on the floor, which you've just seen, and I thought, what if we made it a ball so that it worked better? So I put a ball into a box, and then I attached it to the jet, and it sort of functions, and they are mechanically linked with the rope. The annoying thing is, the ball is a bit cumbersome, and you only really notice this when flying it yourself, but there are certain stopping points depending on how smooth the ball is, because what I did is I just got 4 blocks floating in space, cloned them around a bunch of degrees, and then so that they're all touching, scaled them down, and made a ball out of it. This is the third design, which uses my gimbal, and it's very smooth because this gimbal has basically 0 stopping points, unlike the chair, which had only 5 points that it wanted to stop at, and the ball, which had a lot of points that it wanted to stop at. So this gimbal thing, I don't actually know if it's called gimbal, but I'm going to call it a gimbal for the rest of the video as I build it. This gimbal is basically just a bunch of wheels, and initially I used a pilot seat with some hinges, and here is some footage of that in action. But I thought that it was a bit unreliable because it kept swinging around even after I stopped using the inputs. So I built this with wheels, and it should be pretty obvious how to build it, but I'm going to show you now. Okay, so to make the gimbal section that controls the RC jet, you will need some blocks of your choosing, 4 old wheels, a chair and motor chair, because the old gimbal used the pilot seat, which isn't what we need right now. And if you haven't already used your rope, this is where you're going to be using it. Okay, so to make this wheel gimbal, what we're going to do is we're going to place a block, we're going to stretch it into the air slightly. You should have scale tool, you don't need it, but I like the aesthetic of scale tool. I'm going to stretch that out about 30 studs. I'm going to turn scale to half as well, so that we can get this aesthetic. If you just build with blocks, you don't need to do all of this, but I like the look of all of it. Vertically, we're also on the outside one, we're going to 30. Then what we're going to do is plop this block here, scale this one out 30, plop a block here, pop it down to 30, and now we have the outer ring. Now, because these bars are scaled not properly, what we're going to have to do is count inwards until we find the actual middle point of them. Okay, so I've counted in and I've found my middle point. So I'm going to put an old wheel facing up here. You may need to set move to half on the move settings. Bosh, and then you can delete the guide blocks if you placed any. You keep the ones on the corners just to keep guiding. Now, if you have trowel, you can be lazy, but if you don't have trowel, you're gonna have to mirror that what I just did on the top. Okay, so now we have 2 wheels on the top. We want to place a block on the top of them, which is going to intersect with the inside of our gimbal. So now we have those bits. We can delete the corner guides because I forgot I don't actually need them. And now what we need to do is we need to build some struts that are 20 long on the top sides and 20 long on the side sides. I think that might be... So the way that I've done it, if you're following my exact measurements, you need to attach it like this. And, right. Okay, so the way you know it's in the middle is if the scale dot is in the middle, and for me it is. So, because I have trowel, I'm going to scale it upwards, duplicate this bit upwards, and then plop block on this end. Now we have a block on this end. If you don't have trowel, you're going to have to rebuild it. If you do have trowel, you can be lazy and clone it over. Now this next bit is the pitch controls. So we're going to need some wheels. These ones are slightly intersecting. That's from the old hinge design. Basically, from when I adapted it, I just replaced the hinges with wheels, which created a few measurement problems. So I just moved the wheels in slightly. You're gonna have to move them half a block, I believe, into the pole. But there, that should be fine. Then repeat the same on this side and make sure that they line up with the center measurement dots, which this wheel does not, so I'm going to have to move it upwards. There we go. So you want to repeat that on the other side. And so now you have your pitch wheels. Pitch is up and down movement. Yaw is one of the other movements, and roll is tilting to the side. So yaw is sort of if you rotate your entire person left and right. Roll is if you hold your arms out and move your left arm and right arm in opposite directions. I don't know if that's a good explanation, but do whatever. Hopefully that helps you sort of imagine it, because I don't know how to explain it. I'm not a plane guy. I just like building things in the funny boat game. Right, so now we have here ourselves some pillars. These are all 11. Ah, that's annoying. Okay. I seen what I did. Right, so we're gonna have to have that scale dot slightly below. And on the other side, we're gonna have to have it slightly above the block on the wheel. Which is annoying how I did this, but I just adapted it from the hinge version, which I was just building in a rush to prove this concept. And now we have the concept proved. Yeah, we're straight into the tutorial. Okay, so if you run into errors like what I've just run into, you want to just do some magic with the scaling. I think we actually need to move that up a little bit, that up a little bit, that, like that, bosh, bingo bango. And then we schmlorp it to the bottom. How long is this one? Oh, it's only 10 long. That'll explain it. Okay, so now that's 11 long, we can actually... There. Now we have a cube. In the middle, we can place a small pillar, except it's not actually in the middle. You're going to have to do the counting trick again. I think I just did a good estimate, though. I believe the center pillar is 3 tall. Yes, it's 3 tall. And the reason I mirrored it onto the top is because I want this to be as balanced as possible. So it's probably not doing much, but I wanted it to be as balanced as possible. So now you have the gimbal. But how do you get it connected to the plane and working? So first you want to attach it to this wall so that when you unanchor, it doesn't roll away. Then next you want to connect it up. I don't know if mobile connections will work properly, but you want to unconnect all the wheels from any other connection sources like levers or chairs. Then this top button, forwards you're going to set to right, and backwards you're going to set to left. Do the opposite on the bottom wheel. So if you made forwards right, you want forwards to be left, and if you did backwards left, you want forwards to be right. So for me, I'm using WASD, using the A and D keys. Now we have the pitch ones, which we can do forwards to your forwards key, backward to your backward key, but I would actually recommend doing forwards to your backwards key, but backwards to your forwards. But it's fine, we have reverse spin. If you make mistakes whilst doing this, you can just reverse the wheel spin. Now, set the torque really high, and set the speed to something like 2, and then that should be all connected. Now, the thing left to connect it to your plane is get the rope on the central pillar, which is as close to the center of the chair as possible. And then with the setup that I showed you a while ago, you want to head up to here, and then plop it on the back of the plane. I already have a rope on the back of my plane that's invisible, so I can't do it right now. Also, something you might notice that I forgot to mention, I add parachutes to my RC jet. This is simply because dropping from the height that I'm at can cause things to bounce around, which is not very good, so I just add parachutes to my jet to make sure that it has a nice soft landing when it lands from the sky. Okay, so thank you for watching this video. Special thanks to Adrianzo for showing me this trick. I don't know if they've made a video on it yet. Join my Discord if you can, or are of the age that you're allowed to join Discord. Link in the description. It's where I hang out. Subscribe to the channel. We are at release surprisingly close to 1,000 subscribers. If you want to be in the first 999, subscribe right now, and I will see you next time.